Welcome back, everybody. We are now midway through this month, more or less, and it's been good. It's been informative, stimulating, and if you're anything like me, it's been a little disorienting because we don't need to hide the fact that a lot of us are kind of tuned in to some of the geopolitical juggling that has been happening. So I hope and pray that you've managed to maintain your sanity and also feel nurtured by the times that we get to spend together at least, and perhaps times that you get to spend together with others in your life. I wanted to speak specifically about something I mentioned in my sermon on Sunday, which was titled, Who Gets Healed? And one way to respond to the question is everybody. Everybody gets healed because God's love, the gospel, is supposed to be good news for everybody. But there is a caveat. If a system is in place, a system in which we live, a system that we find ourselves thrown into, not by choice, but just by past decisions that were made that have brought us to this point, we enter the world. If there is a system in place that is unjust, that leads to great disparities, unbearable disparities, and pain and suffering, then it is very clear, based on the biblical witness, that the God of the Bible, as manifested in different ways and times, is always on the side of the victims of that system. Which is to say, God is in favor of transforming or dismantling systems that produce these kinds of disparities. So what I tried to point out is, in honor of both Black History Month and the ongoing efforts of the United Church to establish equity and live equitably in right relation with one another, that it is important to understand that it's not that God is saying this person or that person is special, sort of like the teacher's pet problem, right? Like, it's not that kind of preference. It's saying the victims of a given system will be preferred and tended to by God precisely because the system itself is unjust. And so we try to do things that establish equity and build equity into an unjust system. You and I both know that there are attacks being leveled against the efforts of organizations to establish equity. And I believe it is our duty of faith, as a community of faith, to work to lift up those who are victims of the system in which we live. Now, that system goes by many names. You may have your own for it. I have my own. But what I think is clear and undeniable is that the disparities that exist in this world have grown tremendously. They're unfathomable. The person that works as hard as anybody else can sometimes get paid the least amount. And there are others with thousands of times more wealth, right? Like, unfathomable. And I say that not just to be hyperbolic, but I can't quite wrap my mind around the concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a small number of people and what they can and do often choose to do with that power. So I believe, based on the liberation theology insights that I brought forward on Sunday, that it is our responsibility as people of faith to try to walk as closely as we can to the God that walks with and stands with the victims of this system. That means we have to pay attention in a new way. If we have benefited from, or at the very least, if we have not been directly harmed by the system, at least in a direct material way, then it is important for us to pay attention, especially to those who have, and to try to unpack and interrogate all the things that are in place. Now, that might seem overwhelming. It is if we try to do it alone. But we get to come together every week. We get to participate in a weekly, daily practice as a community of faith, along with other communities of faith who are trying to do this same thing. Do not despair. Do not feel that all is lost. Do not lose hope. We are called to do this. We have done this, and we will continue to do this, which is to lift up those who are pushed to the margins and discriminated against. And we will do everything in our power as a community of faith to ensure that this space is welcome to all, so that we can truly experience the gospel that should be good news for all. So thank you for tuning in, and thinking with me a little bit more about what it means to ask the question about who gets healed as we explore that in the biblical text. Look forward to chatting with you next week as well. Until then, stay warm.